Hi everyone and welcome to my channel. Today I'm going to do a yarn review on Lion Brand's Ferris Wheels. Now I picked two colors. One is sort of a green and it looks like the colors kind of change. And this one sort of looks like cotton candy, very pastel. If you've been watching my other yarn reviews, you'll know that I like to do a sample of a bunch of different stitches, and by that I mean I'll do a little sampler in regular crochet, Tunisian crochet, and knitting, because I like to see how these yarns work up in each of those. I don't do yarn reviews on yarn that I have used. All of my yarn reviews are on yarns that I have never used before, so new to me. So let's take a look at this Ferris wheel yarn. So this is a 4-weight category, and let's just see. It looks a little thin for a 4-weight. I would classify this maybe in between a 3 and a 4. However, it looks like maybe it's sort of a roving yarn, so maybe it's a little bit thicker in certain spots than others. There are 270 yards in this ball of yarn and 85 grams, so there's a good amount in this little cake here. And again, this is a Lion Brand yarn. So that is that one. Let's see what the color is. Cotton candy, there we go. Let's take a look at the green. Same thing, 270 yards, 85 grams. It's a 4-weight. And this one is called Evergreen. So it's 100% acrylic, and it's really soft. And I have a couple of different projects in mind for this yarn. Now I got 3 balls of each, so I have 3 in this Evergreen and 3 in the cotton candy. And yeah, you can see how that color is it's really nice in there. It's a nice color change. We'll see how it works up in an actual knitted and crocheted item. Alright, so let's get started. I'm going to use the Evergreen, and I'm going to see if I can find the end. I don't want to pull too much out. Sometimes the ends are super easy to see. They're, sticking up right in the middle, and sometimes they're not. So I pulled up from the middle, and this is what popped out. So now I'm going to try to find the actual center here. And it looks like it'll be in this little ball here. Here we go. So I'm going to start with a knitted swatch, and I'm only going to cast on probably 10 or so, maybe 15. Alright, so I have 10 stitches. Let's just see how this works up. I have to say it casted on lovely. No issues casting on, no splitting. So I'm just going to work some knit stitches here. So you can see just that first row. It was a little bit tight, that first row, working it. Hopefully it gets a little bit easier. So again, I'm just going to work knit stitches because it's the fastest. So I'm just going to work a few more rows, and then I will give you my rating on how this yarn worked up as I'm knitting it. So I just worked a few rows in the knit stitch, garter stitch. So these are all knit stitches, and you can see it's a nice stitch. The color is fabulous. I didn't get into a lot of the color change, just working these few rows. It worked up nicely. I didn't have any splitting. I didn't have any issues knitting with this yarn at all. So I'm very happy about that. I would highly recommend this yarn maybe for a knitted shawl or something. Like I said, it's classified as a 4, and this looks like a 4 to me, but there were some parts that were a little bit thinner, and I would classify it more as a very lightweight 4. A thicker size 3 weight yarn, but a very light size 4 weight yarn. And it makes a really nice fabric here. Now it's not as soft worked up as it is in this ball, but it's not scratchy or anything. It's just not as soft as other yarns, and it's not as soft as what I had expected, at least in this knitted sampler. So I've used a size 5mm knitting needle. So I'm going to switch to my size 5mm Tunisian crochet hook, and I'm just going to slide these stitches off and onto my Tunisian hook, and I will work up a little bit of the Tunisian simple stitch. Alright, so I slid off the loops on my needle onto my Tunisian crochet hook, weaving in this end as I went, and then doing a quick reverse pass to get back to the beginning. So now, because this is just a swatch and not a formal project, I am just going to pick up stitches along these bars that I sort of created. Some of them are more difficult to see, and that is partly because green yarn is a little bit darker, obviously, but it's also because I did not do this in a formal way to start my Tunisian simple stitch. Let's see how many stitches I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and then I'll pick up 2 at the end, and I have 10. So now we can just work the reverse pass. I'm going to go back through 1 and then pull back through 2. Now this yarn it's a little bit tricky, so that's what that first pass looked like. Let's do another. Now this yarn is really easy to do the forward pass. I'm not getting caught up on it. It's sliding on my needle nicely, or on my hook I should say. Let's see how this reverse pass goes. Alright, so that's a little bit better. It could just be user error right now. Sometimes it's hard to go from knitting to Tunisian crochet to crochet and keep everything straight. So that is a little sample of the Tunisian. Let's do one more forward pass. And again, I do like how it's working up in this Tunisian simple stitch. the reverse pass is giving me a little bit of a hard time. Not horrible, but it does tend to stick on this reverse pass a bit. Now that could also be the hook that I'm using, so I'm not necessarily sure that it's the yarn. Could just be me. There we go. So that's really nice. That creates a really nice stitch. There's the back, and it all kind of looks the same right now. So again, we have the knit stitch, the garter stitch, so all knitting down here. This next little swatch is the Tunisian simple stitch. And now I'm going to do a little bit of crocheting. I'm going to do a couple rows of single crochet, some half double crochet, and I will try a row of treble crochet just to see how those stitches look in this yarn. I'm going to slide my Tunisian crochet hook out, put my shorter hook in, and I'm just going to pick up stitches along this top here. So I'm going to chain one, and again I'm just kind of playing around with this as a sampler. Make sure I get 10 single crochets along this top. Got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and then I'm going to go in the end for 10. Okay, so I should have 10 there. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and 10. Alright, there's our single crochet. Let's do another one. I am not getting any issues working just a single crochet with this yarn. It's flowing on my hook really easily. I'm not getting tangled up. I'm not splitting. And it's not getting tangled. So sometimes when you're working, and especially when you pull something like this out of the center, the yarn can tend to get knotted as you're working it. And so far I haven't had any issues with that. It's pulling out nicely. You can see it just pulls out. Besides the fact that I could not get anything less than this out of that center. But it has not caused me any issues so far. Alright, let's do one more single crochet row, and then I will move to double crochet. So there's some single crochet rows. Now it's funny how you go from something that's knit, which is kind of a tight stitch, the garter stitch, not as tight as doing a stockinette stitch, but knitting tends to be, you need more overall stitches to get the same width or length than you need in a crochet. Tunisian crochet, also very tight stitch, so you would need more stitches to equal a regular crocheted item. But you can see how once I got to the single crochet it starts veering off, and that's probably because crochet is a much looser stitch and I'm most comfortable crocheting, so I can work faster doing a crochet stitch than I can doing a knit or Tunisian crochet stitch. So let's start with some double crochets. And again, this yarn is really nice to work with when crocheting. I am not running into any issues. Okay, so that was a little snag. You could hear it, and then it kind of pulled on my yarn. So let's try that one again. And see, it just pulls really nicely from the center. So that is a plus. Alright, there's our first double crochet row. Yeah, I really like that. I really like that. So this yarn, it was a size 4, and it recommends a 4.5 millimeter knitting needles or a 5 millimeter crochet hook. So I am using a 5.5 for all of these, and that's where the tension comes in, and that's why they recommend different sizes for your knitting needle and your crochet hooks. So I'm going to do one more row of the double crochet. Alright, 2 rows of double crochets done. Now I realize I forgot to do a half double crochet row, so I will do one of those really quickly before we start our trebles. Now the half double crochet sticks just a little bit going through all those loops. Not horribly though. I think once you get used to pulling through all those loops, it's fine. It was those first few stitches for me that were a little bit, it was kind of catching. Alright, so there, that top row is a half double. We've got our singles down here, our doubles, half doubles here. Let's try a treble. And trebles are just a little bit more fiddly to work with. But again, I'm not having any issues with it catching as long as I go relatively slow. You don't want to speed run this, as my kids would say, because I can feel it catching just a little bit on some of these. All right. Yeah, see, I really like that. And I really like the color. You can see it's going to start changing. If I had done a bigger swatch, we might have gotten to see a little bit more of that color change. But we've got a little bit down here. It's lighter here, and it just darkens slightly. And then we've got these blue flecks, specks in here for this treble crochet row. So yeah, overall, highly recommend this yarn. I think it would be fabulous as a shawl or a scarf, but you could certainly make a nice blanket out of this. So I hope you liked this quick little yarn review. Highly recommend, thumbs up. Very easy to work with. One more test. Let's frog out a little bit of this, and it frogs out really nicely. Look how it's just pulling. Just pull very gently and you should not have any issues. Oh, there, a little tight there. Now when you get down to frogging something like your Tunisian crochet or even your knitting, just go slow. This yarn doesn't seem to catch very much, when working or when pulling this out, so you shouldn't have any problem. So I highly recommend this yarn. The colors are fabulous. They come in a lot of different sort of colors, so you have your choice there. And I feel like they're relatively common at some of the big box stores. I believe I ordered these at Michael's. However, I have seen them at other big box stores as well. So they should be relatively easy to find, at least for now. And I think you'll really enjoy working with this yarn. Thanks for watching, everyone. Until next time, happy knitting, happy Tunisian crocheting, and happy crocheting. Bye!